Oh, he's not laying down no more. He's all riled up.
I'm in an argumentative mood anyway.
Uh-oh, here we go. This may be the end of the Monsters Geek podcast.
That was going to be the best Monsters Geek podcast.
I can barely hear you. You can't argue if I can't hear you.
I said it's going to be the best Monsters Geek podcast.
Okay. All right. Guys, well, that's a terrible. He's got me all riled up. I can't even do the intro. Welcome to episode number 57 of the Monsters of Geek. Actually, let me check that before I get going here. I'm sorry, 47. I just skipped up.
Well, how did we miss 50? I was like, where did I miss a 50? 50 was supposed to be this big episode. What happened?
I'm Aaron from the future, so I got a little bit mixed up. Welcome to episode number 47 of the Monsters Geek podcast. I am your editor-in-chief, Aaron, and we have two of our panelists here tonight. Hopefully, two more will show up a little bit later, but we have our resident Yeti here today. Joe, how are you?
I'm good.
And with us today, Daniel. It's been a while, man. We ain't talked in a while, and good to have you here. Daniel was on the show tonight.
Man, it's good to be back. It's been at least a month since I've been on. You know how it is, though. Life, gets in the way, and we've had some times that I couldn't be on. So, but it's good to be back. It feels good. So, it's like I'm coming home every time I come back.
You're like The Rock, man. You should say that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finally, the Daniel has returned.
He's been battling my court cases for me.
Which is numerous.
Yeah, there's too many
stacks and stacks of cases against Joe. So yeah, if this is your first episode of Monster Geek Podcast, we have 46 more. You need to go back and get the continuity for because you have no clue what's going on. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so this is we get together and talk some geeky stuff, whether it be comics or TV or video games or sports or whatever it may be. We get together and talk a little bit, and to begin every show, we kind of play catch up a little bit, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, so Daniel, what have you been doing while we've been on hiatus?
Wow. I'm trying to think where I was last time we talked.
Last time we talked, I think we discussed that you were almost done with Persona, or you platinum Persona.
I did get the platinum Persona. Yeah.
I need to clarify that because a platinum in Persona is like winning an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, that was
that is a lot of time.
That was a long time ago. So, let's see. Since then, you got me into Odin Sphere.
Yes.
Played that, beat it, loved it. Really enjoyed it. Let's see. I haven't been playing much else other than that. Joe, I got through all episodes of Luther. Finally got to sit down and watch all that. Loved that one. Yeah, and that's about it. I'm playing a couple of Vita games, and that's about it. I downloaded Final Fantasy IX for PS4. That just came out. What was it, last week?
Last week, I think. And, surprisingly, like the Monday it dropped or whatever.
Yeah. The day they announced it, the day before or the day of or something. And
did you play the Final Fantasy VII one, Daniel?
So, yeah, I haven't beat it.
Gotcha.
But I've been playing it. Like I'll turn it on every once in a while and play a little bit.
Sure.
But playing 9 right now, and just kind of goofing off with it, not really getting into it the whole lot.
And just to clarify, what we're talking about is they do, I guess, high-definition remakes. Not the high-definition you're thinking of. Basically taking the old PS1 polygons and stuff, clean them up, make them look better for high-definition TV, and adding trophies to them, if I'm not mistaken, as well, which adds a little bit more to it. Just think, back in the day, we played Final Fantasy VII for 100-plus hours with no trophies. Crazy as that sounds.
And they've all got, of course, they add, little boosters to the game as well, which makes it fun. It can make it funner if you already beat the game a bunch of times. They 2 or 3 times the speed. Hit for 199 damage every time. It's just different ways to go through the game that you can challenge yourself or move all challenge. So I think it's kind of neat.
But I mean, back in the day, we were like, man, you know what I did last night? And my friends were like, what did you do? Man, I beat Final Fantasy VII. And they was like, what? Oh, man, no, you didn't.
Then the first question was, did you do it with or without Knights of the Round? And then we'd really figure out who was the. That would have been a trophy. Beat it without Knights of the Round. Be Sephiroth before without Knights of the Round.
Yeah.
Daniel,
you have
what?
a story about that, don't you? About having to go all the way back just to get that?
I never got Knights of the Round.
Because you got all the way to Sephiroth one time. The first
Yeah, I was
time
there.
we went through, but you couldn't beat them because you didn't have something.
We kept turning me into a frog. I had an issue with the, and I did it without a guide. So there was probably some stuff that I didn't get that I needed to. And so when I got there, it took me a little bit, actually a little bit.
You'll never get Knights of the Round without a guide, I don't think. Without where it is.
Back when he was an okay gamer, now he's just a bad gamer.
I'm a bad gamer. I enjoy gaming. I think that's I think it's okay if you're bad at something, but you still enjoy it. Daniel's talked about Odin Sphere a little bit. I have yet to beat it. I'm on the next to last story. I guess the fairy queen or the fairy.
Something starts with an M, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I just finished
Mercedes.
Yeah. I just finished Cornelius's, I think. Was it Cornelius's? Maybe. But yeah, that game's really good. And we talked about it a little bit. The only negative that I could take from that game is that it's very button mashy at times.
It's a little button mashy. I think there could have been a little more as far as the block button. You know, right now, like the block and the attack button are exactly the same. Yep. So, like if you're attacking, you're almost automatically blocking.
Yep.
You know, so I wish there was a little more strategy involved with that way. But I don't know. It's still kind of addictive. Like I didn't put it down the entire time I had. I did not put it down. I played it nonstop.
I think it's a good mixture of a beat 'em up RPG kind of adventure game because the way you kind of traverse the levels and how the map is laid out and how you get to places, I think it's still a lot of discovery to be done. I think there's an achievement where, fill out all the map. So there are achievements. And there's sometimes where you buy the map, but it doesn't necessarily show up a spot. And you have to try to figure out, how to get somewhere or there's a special room or something. I do like the upgrade system. I think the upgrade system was genius. I think it really makes you want to try to do as much with each character as possible because you want to try to upgrade all that. And the story's pretty neat. At first I thought it was a little bit disjointed, but once you kind of get into it, the flow of it's really nice. Everything kind of complements each other. Once you figure out where in the timeline you're kind of at with each character, I think it's pretty. It's almost like a Tarantino film. Once you figure out where you're at, it all makes sense. But for a second there, it takes a bit. So, but yeah, I'm glad you got into it, man. Like I said, I've put in a pretty good amount of hours into it. I'll probably finish it at some point, but at this point, it's just kind of my Vita's been laying around for a little bit. So,
I love the food system. That's how how you level up. Cool. That's a lot of fun. Something different. I loved a lot of the battles. And especially with Mercedes, but the people start changing a lot, like how they fight. Like Velvet and Cornelius are basically characters. Right. They fight a lot. But Mercedes is completely different.
Yeah.
And then the final two characters are pretty, a little bit different too. I love the item system, love the food, like eating the food to gain levels. That was just a lot of fun. I was constantly trying to find new recipes and find the ingredients and okay, I should buy this and I should buy this. It was it was really cool. It was just a lot of fun. And the ending was fun. The ending,
there's a couple different endings of that game, I think.
There's several different endings, and I don't want to give it away, but in the final book, we'll say the final story, you choose who goes where,
and it's that order they have to go in, right? Like there's a certain order for certain endings.
An order for like the way they should go, but there's also story scenes that you miss if you don't send this person here or this person there and wherever else. And it was just fun. It was a lot of fun to see that ending.
And probably one of the prettiest games. And I'm not I don't think graphics are everything. I think there's games that are super, like Hyper Light Drifter is not. It's like an 8-bit, 16-bit kind of game, and it's still gorgeous. And then I could go back. We talked about Super Nintendo 16-bit, how that just kind of, it's not the best graphics in the world, but they're really nice looking. Same with this. It's almost like hand drawn. It's just gorgeous, man. I can't imagine with as much as you do fighting wise. Like I actually read a review when it came out because I was thinking about getting it when it came out. And the guy was like, I don't know how I got through this on PS2 because of all the enemies and stuff. He said, I remember my PS2 just like the fan would automatically kick on. Like it was just
Yeah.
driving it so hard. And he said it would still have just lag and lag and lag. He said, I still had a bunch of fun with it. But he said, this Vita version is like, it's like playing in turbo mode because everything's running so smoothly and everything else. He said, it's pretty neat. It is. It runs great.
And I think I told you I played it. I own it for PS2, but for some reason, I remember starting it, but I remember never getting into it. And I was playing it, as I was like going through like my nonstop run of beating this game. I mean, I never turned it off on my Vita. Like it was always in standby, and for like the 2 weeks or 3 weeks that I was playing it, and I was like, why did I not play this? Why was I not playing this back then? What is wrong with me? But
it's a great.
I actually
go ahead, Daniel.
I bought it, I bought it for PS4, and because I own it for PS4, and around to playing it, and I knew if I was ever going to play it, I had to have it for Vita, because that's the only way I was going to take the time to actually play it. And when it went on sale on PS Store, I bought it, and I'm glad I did. It was great.
Yeah, I bought it when they were on sale. If you haven't played, you got a Vita, or if you have a PS4, I can't imagine what that looks like on the PS4.
I bet it's beautiful,
especially on a great TV. Go check it out, man. Odin Sphere. Great game from Vanillaware. Go check those guys out. It's a as you can tell, we've had a pretty good time with it. Joe, what have you been up to, man?
Absolutely nothing.
Thank you for bringing so much to the segment of the show.
My man cave got taken over by hurricane refugees. And when I finally got to go back into it, plasma TV don't work anymore.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to have to change the board in it, order a new board and change it. So that took my video game playing out for a little while. I mean, I got another TV, but I got to carry it downstairs, and I've not been home long enough to do that because I've been housekeeping. So, other than that, started a new job.
Awesome.
Yes, that's about.
Ever watch anything like at all, like any shows or?
Well, I did watch Midnight Texas.
Good, because I was about to just totally cut you out of this segment when I went in.
I did watch Midnight Texas, a little 10 series thing on, I think it was NBC. I mean, it was okay. There was a lot of plot holes.
What was the name of the show?
What is that? I've heard of that.
Midnight Texas.
Midnight Texas. Who's in it? Anybody we know?
The girl from Parenthood. The redheaded girl that dated Michael B. Johnson.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she was in it. The girl from Friday Night Lights, the blonde girl that dated Gambit.
Panecki, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Adriana Panecki.
Yeah, she was in it. And that's really the only two people that I really recognize of anything else. Of course, it's based off of, I think is it Charlene Harris? Is that the girl, listen to me, woman's name that done the True Blood series? I think that's her name. It's based off the books that she wrote.
Okay.
And it's just this little town that has supernatural people that live in it. There's a good witch, a vampire. The girl from Friday Night Lights is like an assassin type character. There is it's not a werewolf because he no, I'm not. It would ruin it if I told you. If anybody wanted to watch it, well, I guess I can say spoiler alert because the first season's over. You can watch it on demand. So if you haven't watched it, sorry, spoiler alert. Turn it down. He changes into a tiger, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And
regular tiger or Siberian tiger?
It's a white tiger.
Nice.
I think it's a white tiger. It may be orange. It only shows it like one time during one episode, and he gets out and like kills some people. But he's a preacher because he atones for his sins, and he has a pet cemetery that he buries all the animals that he kills because he has to put food in the basement where he goes to change so he can eat and feed his appetite. So he doesn't feed on humans. It's a pretty cool little storyline. I wish there was more of it. There, there's an angel, and his lover. Spoiler alert: is a demon. Spoiler alert: they're gay. So
They're just bringing all the shock value to this show.
I know. Yeah. So, but it's pretty cool. I mean, there's like I said, a lot of plot holes in it. It's only 10 episodes. It's worth watching. I mean, it's like 45 minutes an episode. It's a decent story.
And what channel is this on?
NBC, I think. Channel.
Is this going?
Channel 5 here is NBC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in NBC.
Is this something that's going to be picked up for a second season, or did it kind of wrap it up just in case, or?
No, it's left on a cliffhanger. So, like the cool thing, like I guess the main character is a psychic, and he had an RV that
makes sense.
His grandmother left. Yeah, his grandmother left him, and his grandmother's dead. But she's attached to that RV. So it's kind of funny to watch their little dialogue as they go, like, bicker with each other and stuff. It's pretty funny.
So is she, like, talking through the car, or is she, like, physically?
No,
like...
she's physically in the car, but he can only see her.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So,
what ties her to that car? Now I'm interested. What is it? Just like
she was a gypsy.
Oh, okay.
So sense. It was like their home, and like the dude's mom couldn't handle him because he had these special abilities, and he was super strong psychic, and so she just dropped him off with his grandma one day. So they had a really good connection, and she taught him, the ways how to make money at it and stuff like that, and cheat people out of money. And one of the big storylines was they cheated this guy out of money, and he wanted revenge, which left you kind of wanting more of the way that it finally, like, they tried to build it up to be this big bad dude, and then finally he found him, and it was just like, it was kind of, like, it didn't, I was like, I wanted more.
He was just a real big fart. That's what happened.
I mean, he was like, he wanted to be like an all-powerful gypsy leader, so like he was gonna have his daughter marry that other dude, and they took the money and ran.
Sounds like a really bad version of Dr. Doom.
So spoiler alert, his daughter killed herself, and they thought it was because of him, but it was really because her dad was just a gigantic douchebag.
Oh, I thought because he was a terrible villain, she was like, I can't be the daughter, so to tell her a terrible villain.
Like, it sent him into like a mad like spin, and he took an eye so he can do really dark like magic. So he was really cool. Like when he came, he was really, really cool, and I was like, "Oh man, he's gonna be awesome." And then like by the end of the episode, it was like, "Really? That's all you're gonna give me, this dude?"
That seriously sounds like a very cheap version of Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom's mom was a gypsy. He was a gypsy for a while. Mom died. Gets into the dark arts. Except he takes over his own country. This guy just doesn't sound like he didn't have the career drive that Dr. Doom had, apparently.
Yeah, it wasn't his mom, it was his daughter. And he could have, like, he was super powerful, but it was just like I'll need you tell me why my daughter died and tell her to forgive me and I'll leave you alone. And
that was it?
And it ends up that his daughter hated him, and he had to tell him that his daughter hated him. So at the spoiler alert, at the end of the episode, he breaks a ton of glass, and you think that the main dude's gonna die, and because he delivered the bad news, instead he kills himself with all that glass. I'm like, really? Like, come on, man.
So this doesn't. I mean, is this a show that we want to watch, or is this a show that we're just gonna let you tell us about?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would watch. It's worth a watch.
Listen. I think Joe did a good job of telling us. I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff.
It's worth a watch. I mean, it's not like a Game of Thrones or a Supernatural or anything like that. But it's a decent. Like if you have time to kill and you don't have anything else to watch, You know, I mean,
Boy,
And that ringing
if
endorsement from Joe Collier.
I can just see it now, back of the box, man. This.
Here's the thing: if you're in my predicament and you have no video game systems, nothing to play your Netflix on, and you need something to watch, you can watch it. In that predicament, I give it a 1.5 thumbs up. In any other predicament, I would give it a quarter of a thumb.
That's a heck of a back. NBC can have that box quote. Just accredit Joe Yeti Collier, MonstersGeek.com. That's a heck of a box quote.
Like I can see, like if it was on a different, like if it was on like an HBO, like True Blood was, it may have been a better show because there's.
So you think it was limited because it was on network TV?
Oh yeah, yeah. I say it was probably more than limited. Like,
they could actually use Dr. Doom.
Yeah, like there was a whole like awesome biker gang that just like everybody was scared of, and then it was very easily dismantled in one episode instead of building on it. I mean, it's just that's what kills.
This does sound like This does sound like the writers are like, I don't know this. We got lucky to get this picked up. Let's just kind of just hope we don't get a second season because we're really going to screw this up.
and the main bad guy, because I doubt any of y'all will watch it. I really do.
Nah, don't worry. I don't think we.
The main spoiler alert in case we have listeners that will watch it or are watching it. I'm not telling you how it ends. Like they build up this big bad like demon dude, and he's coming. He wants to take over he wants the witch because she's a virgin and extremely powerful, and you don't find many like 30-year-old virgin powerful witches. So the way they defeat him is her and the dude that loves her, they do it and take away her virginity, and he's like, Phoebe, and like goes on this like big mad like spree of like blowing cars up and trying to kill people in that town.
So he throws a tantrum.
Yeah. So like the psychic gets like these 6 demons and invites them into him so he can be powerful, and he's not powerful enough. So the vampire dude like runs into the back, grabs something, I don't even know what it is, and he's like, "This is said this is said to contain the devil himself." And the psychic dude's like, "All right, well I'll try it," and gets possessed by the devil himself. And
did he really say, "Okay, I'll try it"?
Yeah. So he gets he defeats the big bad demon dude that they build up to be this huge dude that's gonna destroy the whole earth. And at one episode they beat him instead of making it like 2 or 3 episodes. And it's just like, really?
It's interesting because when we first started talking about this show, I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. Maybe I'd want to watch that. That sounds kind of cool. And now by the end of the conversation, I was like, yeah, I'm never going to watch that.
Yeah, like
this sounds terrible.
Joe just dropped a concrete truck on top of it. So
let's just say, anytime that there's big bad demon dudes involved, I'm like, okay, it piques my interest because I've got a thing for that. Like in Oblivion, like what happened?
Wait, what?
I like the storyline. So, like in Oblivion, you had this big bad demon dude wanting to take over the Elder Scroll world. So it was cool. Like they were powerful. This guy's like, I'm gonna get defeated in one episode. So, I mean, I've pooped turds out that's more powerful than this dude. So,
that's season 2, Joe.
They face my poop monster.
Gosh, almighty.
Oh man,
already off the rails.
Already off the rails.
I have invited the devil in me to be my poop monster, and I poop out if I had him.
Jared, man, save this before we get canceled.
I don't even know how to say. What was the name of that show, Joe?
You don't want to know.
Texas.
What?
Midnight Texas.
Oh, okay. I
hope the book. I kind of hope the book's better than the show was.
Did you go? Why you gonna read it?
No, no, but I mean, if it sold a lot of books, then I hope it's good. So.
I hope it is too. Hope it is. Jared, what you been up to, man?
Not too much. I'm trying to
Not watching Texas at nighttime or whatever. I already forgot what it's called.
I love Midnight Texas. Oh my gosh, be a true fan.
I don't know if there are any true fans of that, Joe.
Suck it.
Okay.
We're currently rewatching The Office for like the 5th time.
That's always a good thing to do
when there's nothing else on. I mean, Game of Thrones season's over, so
hey, you can watch Midnight Texas.
we'll start clearing out our.
It's probably on Hulu.
Yeah, we're gonna clear out our Hulu list from stuff that just started coming on this week.
Midnight Texas.
No, I did get to play a little bit of Metroid. First time I played a video game.
Yeah, let's talk about Metroid Prime. Yeah, it's the first one, right?
Yep.
Okay. We had a little bit of a chat discussion. You texted me, so I played a little bit about an hour or so last night. Yeah. I played this game way back when it first came out on the GameCube. I played some of Super Metroid. I've never beat Super Metroid, but it was definitely not what I expected because I think back then I don't even think I knew it was first person when I picked it up. Because I didn't have gaming magazines, and I don't think I just hey, I knew what Metroid was. I'll pick it up and play for the GameCube. I ain't got nothing else to play for GameCube. And Jerry, we talked about the first person portion of this, and we're both kind of over first person shooters. As far as just even I haven't played first person shooter in I don't know how long. As far as like a new game.
No, I don't think I played since like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1. When I got my PlayStation 3, it came with it because I bought it off somebody. So
that was the last one I can remember playing, and I didn't enjoy it. I think I just played multiplayer, and then I discovered that I'm not a multiplayer guy anymore. I just not. One of the things, Jared, maybe you can, and if Daniel has played, I don't know if Daniel's played. I think Andrew's probably played it, but one of the things that is kind of the central theme of a Metroid game is the hunting and the discovery portion of this, like being able to look at the map and figure out where you need to go, getting things that you may see first part of the game you can't do, but like halfway through you get the ability to do, have to go back and do. A lot of discovery, kind of doing your own thing type of thing. Castlevania built on that, the Castlevania, the Castle, the Metroidvania games that we have. It's kind of resurgence in popularity. One of the things that I found in that game was that being first person hindered that for me. Like there were times where I didn't really know where I was at type of thing. And I know you can roll up in a ball and kind of see, and there was times where I would and kind of use the camera to kind of look where I was at. But I just didn't really feel like it gave you enough of a perspective to have that discovery type of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the maps aren't that detailed. I mean, you just have a block, like, oh, you're in this room, this is the block where it's at, and you can see stuff shooting off from there. And like I was trying to find a save point last night, and it I kept looking around the room. I was like, where is this thing? And then finally I was like, oh, it's above me. I had to go up on the ledge and up around. I don't, the map can be kind of confusing at times because sometimes it doesn't show the dual levels that one of them can have. But other than that, like, I didn't really have too hard a time maneuvering around. Right at the end, after the first part of the game, you start off on a ship. Mm-hmm. And when I was on that part, I was trying to flee the ship because you have a countdown at the end of it. You only got like 6 minutes. And so there was one part I was like, where do I find this door at? Because like I saw the room and I saw there was an exit point, but I could not find the door. And then I was like, oh, again, there was some collapsed rubble you had to go up on, and then, oh, there's a door. So other than a small, few things like that, I didn't find the map confusing. But it can be kind of frustrating, though.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like, and I know those games are well liked, and I would like to go back and kind of give it a whirl. I think if a first person shooter would hook me, it would be more that sci-fi type of that Metroid is. I love basically Dead Space. A first person Dead Space would be great. But I did like the way that they did the hub. Like that's one of the things that I feel like that we're just now getting into with the net. It's just not you with a get down the barrel of a gun. You're having, like if you have a visor on it, you have the stuff on there. And Nintendo did it first with Metroid Prime. All that stuff is like you are Samus in the helmet. I thought that was really, really neat.
Yeah, I always like that. Even, if you think back to, what was it, like NFL 2K7 or
the last one, yeah.
The last one where it gave you the first person perspective through that helmet, which was kind of cool because, if you played football, the grid view, there's just something about putting that helmet on. And even with like the different face masks, you would have like the bar in the middle and things like that. So even, as Samus, it was kind of cool to be able to see that, but at the same time there was there's like 4 different visors you can get and all the different things you can do with them, and I'm like, I'm trying to shoot this monster. I don't want to be trying to, like, I was trying to press one button to switch the visor and I was trying to run at the same time, and it was like press sideways and press B to strafe away from the fire, and I'm trying to do that, and it's like, oh, scan the monster too, and like I'm trying to hold the R button, so I've got like 5 buttons pressed down, and I'm like, this is too many button configurations for me.
You're like, Lucy, come here, I need you to hold this button for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm running out of fingers.
Bob, you said if anything could make you play a first-person shooter game. Halo was a first-person shooter. It hooked you pretty well.
Yeah, that was the last one I played. I didn't play Halo 3. I think the last one was not Medal of Honor. I'm sorry, Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2 was the last one that I played. Or Advanced, was it Modern? Yeah, I guess Modern Warfare was the last one I played. I think for a while there, and maybe everybody can kind of jump in on, I think first-person shooters just got oversaturated. I think we went from none, like good ones, from like the 16-bit era to the 32-bit era. Then you get GoldenEye, and you get some of the stuff on, Perfect Dark on N64. Then it kind of starts showing, oh, hey, we can kind of do some first-person shooters, not just on PC, but on the consoles as well. Sure, they're more limited. They don't look as pretty, but it can still be done. And then you go on to the PlayStation era or PlayStation 2 and GameCube. That's where it kind of blew up. Xbox coming out. Halo was probably the best, still the best first-person shooter, in my personal opinion, I've ever played. As far as just overall series, but I just got tired of them. I just kind of got burned out because everybody was trying to do it. And you got one. It almost became, especially with Call of Duty, at least Halo, you got one every 3 years or so. But then it was like you had Call of Duty coming out, and then you had Medal of Honor trying to do the same thing, and then you had all these other ones coming out, and it just felt like kind of like Madden. Mm-hmm. Call of Duty became Madden for a while, and I was like, I don't want another military shooter. I think that's when I started branching out more as a gamer and getting into more of, the third person stuff, maybe stuff I wouldn't have played before. The Dead Space, I think Dead Space is one of the best games I've ever played. Dead Space 2 to be more particular, but yeah, I just don't have, I have no, like I look at Doom and Doom looks fun, but it's a first person shooter. It just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I really hadn't picked up one since I think maybe it was Advanced Warfare or whatever. I can't remember which one it was, but like obviously it didn't make that great of an impression on me. But like,
I remember the last first-person shooter game I played.
There's a few that have come out that I kind of want to play. Like I saw Battlefield 1, and I'm like, just the time period. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that looks cool. I'd love to, pick it up. But of course, I think like the story mode was kind of limited on it, to just a couple hours.
Right.
And then like the new Call of Duty World War II comes out, and I'm like, I really love that time period. So I would like to try to play it, but I probably won't ever play it. Because
I'm waiting on Call of Duty or Modern Warfare, Revolutionary War.
You have to load the muskets.
Yeah. Load the cannon. You have to take turns firing at each other.
Very little known fact, there was a History Channel Civil War game. Mm-hmm. Came out for the PlayStation 2, and you literally had to load your musket. And it was probably maybe the most boring game ever made.
It takes you
with guns in it.
3 minutes to shoot it and reload.
It's kind of like that time we went to watch that Pocahontas movie.
Oh God!
And we thought it was
1492.
Yeah, we thought it was all this like war was gonna happen, stuff like that, like all these battles, because that's all that was in the trailer for it. And then it was like 14 hours of movie, 3 minutes of dialogue, and like 2 minutes of a battle.
Yeah,
and then the rest
was
of
bad.
it is Colin Farrell and the Pocahontas lady just running through the fields, like holding hands and skipping and singing Mary Poppins.
It was terrible. It was just, yeah, it was bad.
It was a pretty good crowd in that theater. Then they got up and like three of us was left.
I mean, it's beautifully shot. We won't get into that, but it's a beautifully shot movie. But it just wasn't what we expected it to be. Anyway, so yeah, Metroid Prime, man. I hope we continue to play it. I'd like to.
I think I'm gonna try play a little bit more. I don't know if I'll play through the whole game or not. Just because, like, I was playing I guess it was Friday night. I was playing and I was like, I waited so long to play this and kind of built it up, and now I'm like, it's a little disappointing, especially after you get stripped down from everything and half the stuff you could do at the beginning you can't do now, and you're like, where do I go? Where do I start looking? Which door, what path do you choose?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it turns out, though. I'd like to at least play for another hour or two before I make a decision.
I think all Metroids are games that takes a little bit to get going. I think they're very slow starting, but once you get an hour or two into it, I think you kind of really get going with them.
Yeah,
so
I'd like to go back and play, the first two again. Because I remember playing, as a 8-year-old kid or whatever, Metroids, you don't really understand what's going on. You're just running around shooting stuff.
Right.
But now, after reading about it, I'd like to go back and play through.
Metroid is very much like, I've heard it when I listen to podcasts about older games, they'll be like, there was kids games and adult games. And most of the adult games started with Zelda and Metroid. And so you sit there and watch your parents play because they would know how to play the game versus me just, jumping around doing flips and shooting things.
I would even say Mario was an adult game just because, you have those puzzle levels in there.
Sure.
And as a kid, you're like, why am I running in a circle? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just keep going in that big loop and you're like, what is going on?
Where's all the Goombas?
Yeah. But I remember, I think I was 4 when I started playing Mario when it first came out.
I was pretty young, yeah.
And like Lucy now, I let her play it a couple times, and she can get she'll get past like the first level or possibly the second level, but they haven't played video games that much, but like she has a hard time of like jumping and moving at the same time. And I was holding the run button and running and jumping with Mario when I was 4 or 5, and I'm like, I guess it's just a different generation.
Jared was cracked the Mario athlete. Hey, you know what I can't wait for?
Joe, hold your mic up a little more.
You know what I can't wait for?
What is that?
Call of Duty and French Indian War.
Yes, they'll do some way callbacks for those. I can't wait for Call of Duty Middle Earth. That's what I'm waiting for.
Modern warfare, Battle of the Roses. War of the Roses.
Call of Duty, the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
We could do this all night.
Or the conquistadors. Send them over to Mexico and slaughter all the Indians.
Yes, come slaughter all the Indians.
Call of Duty, the Teddy Roosevelt years. So Jared, I'm glad you're I guess you're liking it. I'm not really for sure. Are you liking it?
I'm kind of neutral on it.
Okay. You're in it when you're just waiting for something to make it go.
It depends on how many more button combinations they give me. If they throw too many more at them, I'll throw the controller and just say forget it.
At some point, they'll be like, "You really need a second controller for this level."
Yeah, exactly. Put this one on the floor so you can use your feet.
Can you use your toes as fingers? Because we really need to do that here. So what I've been up to, man, I've been buying a lot of Japanese video games lately. Really kind of get some mostly Super Famicom games. So a couple weeks back we talked about my Retro Freak. You could actually get translation patches for games, load them on an SD card, and be able to play them in English. I haven't tried that yet, so I've just been trying to find games that are either one, you don't need the translation patches for to play and have fun, or two, like most of the RPGs, try to find the ones that are good with translation patches. So I did finally get a hold of Secret of Mana 3. I was that was one of the games that everybody on YouTube said was absolutely spectacular, really pushed the Super Nintendo. Just a really good game. So I finally got a hold of that. And these aren't super expensive games. I think the most I paid for one was I think $45, and it was called The Fireman. And basically it's like a top down type of thing, and you're a fireman. You have to get through the levels to save the people. And you think that's really doesn't sound interesting, but it really does. It's a really good game. And so I know that sounds crazy. And they actually released one here called Ignition Force or Ignition something. But I didn't like the graphics. They weren't cartoony enough for me. They tried to go for that realistic stuff that didn't really work on the Super Nintendo. I've paid for one. I actually want to give a shout out to one of the guys. Let me see if I pull up my phone right quick. Guy on eBay. I actually ordered a game. Have you guys ever played Rocket Knight Adventures? You guys remember that for the Sega Genesis?
Nope.
Jared does. Yeah. So it was a game a lot like Rocket Knight Adventures, but you were like these I guess not mechs, but it was very colorful and very kind of crazy looking, but you could shoot yourself all over the level, and it was really good. It had these, open world back in Super Nintendo days was you could go up, like these big vertical worlds that you could keep on going up and then kind of go across. And it was like a game like that. Found a good deal on it. It's about $15. Usually went for about 30. And on eBay, when you find a deal on eBay, you got to kind of go for it. So one of the guys, if I can pull it up here, I don't know if I pulled it up or not. Anyway, he had it up, and he emailed me after I bought it. I was noticing he didn't ship it, and I was like, well, I don't know if it's going to make it here by the day it says it was, he's going to have to ship that. And so come to find out, he couldn't find it. So he said he looked all over the place, thought he had it. He couldn't find it. I was kind of bummed because I really kind of wanted to play the game. And that's one of those I didn't have to have a patch for because it's pretty much a kind of like a platformer type of game. Really no storyline, or at least not a good storyline. And so his name is Akiba West. He's a seller on eBay. Mostly does imports and Super Famicom games. But I kind of want to give him a shout out because he sent me. He said he was sorry, and he said I want to refund your money and send you a free game, free of charge. And I was like, oh well, how cool! And there's a game called I won't butcher the Japanese version. It's Daku no Ginsan, and it's called Hammering Harry. And it's one of the games I didn't need a patch for. And it was, so basically you're just a guy with a big sledgehammer, and you're going through, and it's a platformer, and it's just a simple kind of side-scrolling platform. It looked really cool. Big sprites, Super Nintendo always could get those big sprites on the screen, and just good, colorful game. The game goes for like $30. And I actually was watching one, and he was like, okay, I'll just send you that one. I was like, cool, awesome. So that's on its way. And so I've got a stack of games that I'm planning on playing soon and just kind of going through. And it's been cool. It's just been cool discovering, because these are basically new games. Like, these are games that never came over here. None of these came over here. And so it's really cool to kind of see. Some of the games are pretty crazy. I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with that. Like, one game that was really good, you basically played as Satan. And I was like, we'll back off that one. I mean, I'm not going to go. One of them, and it's a super cool game, was actually designed by the Dragon Ball Z guy. You're basically like this little demon kid that collects souls for Satan. So I found out that Japanese does not have problems with the concept of being Satan or helping Satan. So it was, so I kind of stayed away from those. But there's a lot of really cool games, and they were doing some stuff that maybe didn't really get over here as far as innovation and stuff that I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been playing a lot of Zero Dawn, Horizon. I've got about 25 hours into that. Been doing a lot of side quests and Trying to find the big long neck dinosaurs to climb up on and whatnot. That game is so good. I mean, it's just every so often I get, man, I get where, oh man, this is just kind of the same thing. Like a lot of the quests are the same. Like you follow a path, look for evidence and stuff like that. It kind of does get a little repetitive, but the storylines are so good and the writing is so good that whenever you find the person you're looking for or whatever it may be, you're going to get an interesting story out of it. It's just like builds on this world and builds on these characters. So at some point I'll finish it. I think I'm going to take my time like I did with Zelda with this one. But man, that game's so good. If you haven't played it yet, I mean, it's such a good game. And even with some of their flaws in it, it's not a perfect game, especially coming from a game like Zelda that you can climb mountains and kind of go over things instead of trying to get through things. It's neat. I mean, it's just a really good game, and I can't wait for the second one because I think they'll probably add a lot of what Zelda did, and make it and take away some of the flaws of what the first one was. But it's really good. Daniel, have you played it yet?
What was it again?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
No. I'll probably never get to be honest.
Oh man, I think it'd be right down your alley.
I just don't know when I'd have time, though. I just don't
That's
have
true.
time.
Well, you don't have to put
honestly, like I generally do not have time to play it.
Well, I usually play.
I can play it on my lunch break or something like that.
Sure. I usually play it, when mainly when the baby's asleep. I'll get like an hour in or so, and be able to play it. And so, I mean, it's something I've kind of worked my way through. I got a big chunk of it done before the baby was born, so I was about 12 hours into it before the baby was born. I kind of set it aside, finished Zelda, and then kind of came back to it. But yeah, I mean, it's good. Jared, actually, I'll probably let you borrow it once I get done because I think you would. I know we don't all have time to do this, but I think you really, really enjoy it. I think it's a really cool game. It reminds me a lot of Red Dead Redemption in a lot of ways, which we talk about Red Dead Redemption all the time. Just a world they kind of build. The map's not too big. Like I felt sometimes Zelda got a little bit too big, even though it's a great game. The map is still sort of confined to a certain extent, but you're still feeling like you're discovering new places pretty periodically. So. But yeah, it's good. Definitely two thumbs way up.
I've been debating on that one or Hellblade.
I've heard a lot of good things about Hellblade. Mostly not necessarily. I mean, it's a good game, but what it kind of covers, like some of the themes and stuff, I heard was really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm waiting to build my home theater setup before I get it because there's a lot of ambient sounds and ambient voices and stuff is what I've read about it. So I really want to get the full effect.
Gotcha. All right, well, that's what we've been up to, guys. I know we had to play a little bit of catch up there, probably a little bit longer than what we wanted to, but yeah, that's great. So we've got some cool stuff going on. Hopefully, we all try to find time to have some continue to do our hobbies, but we got 3 dads and 1 guy that is busy with work. So I guess he's busy. Joe, I mean, are you busy with work, man?
Yeah, I'm busy. Or I'm not busy with work. I'm housekeeping, so I don't have all my stuff. So that's the bad thing about it. But
so go ahead, Joe.
Don't forget to watch Midnight Texas, okay?
Actually, forget to watch Midnight Texas. I might actually bleep the name of the show out.
You would
we're not responsible for anybody watching that.
You would be surprised of how bigly of a success that Midnight Texas is.
Oh, jeez.
It's gonna be huge.
So guys, I think we was going to talk about video game magazines. Daniel had brought this up a little bit, and I think I want to do a little bit more research on that subject. Because there are a lot of stuff out there, and I think we could have a really good episode if we all came a little bit more prepared than just the 4 hours before the podcast. But there's one, so I want to change this topic, and this is something that you don't really need a ton of research on, and it was something I was thinking about the other day. I've been kind of cleaning out some stuff. I've been selling some games, so especially disc-based games that I'm not playing. And not going to play or possibly have it on Vita. Like I bought a lot of PS1 classics for the Vita that I could go back and play. And I was thinking about, while I was cleaning some stuff out, and I'm thinking about selling my PS3. It's up. I don't know if anybody buys it. It's no big deal if it doesn't go. But I was thinking about what eras and games that is hard to go back to because of some of the limitations, or maybe not necessarily. I guess graphically you could go. I'm talking about like certain limitations of the hardware that makes it go back. That trying to go back makes it hard to play those games. Like I was thinking, even with like the PlayStation 3, some of the stuff the PS4 does. Even some of the games on PS3, I look at back. I'd like to play Red Dead Redemption. I look back and I'm like, it still has limitations. I feel like it would get on my nerves. Like certain games would get on my nerves with the limitations. And I was thinking maybe that's the subject to kind of broach here. I mean, what era in gaming maybe you've played recently, or maybe thought was the bee's knees, and you go back and like, man, this is just like super limited stuff.
The load screen times at Red Dead Redemption.
Load. Yes. But that's kind of talk I thought we could kind of shoot off the top of our heads a little bit. I do want to do the gaming magazine topic, but I wanted to do a little bit more research, maybe even do a little bit more history on some of our favorite ones, do a more more comprehensive episode on that. Daniel, we'll start with you, man. We'll start with you. Is there anything that, thinking back, or maybe you go back and play even recently, or maybe a couple years ago, whatever, that you're like, man, like I can remember liking this, but now it's like it's not great anymore.
Yeah, this is a pretty. Are we talking about games specifically, or are we talking about a generation, or just?
Well, I mean, we could talk about generation, games, possibly. Let's do both. So let's talk about a generation first, if we have enough time. Basically, generational, just generational. Like, what generation of games do you find hard to go back to play?
Okay, this is very timely. The SNES Classic coming out this week.
Yeah, there you go.
So, there you go. Point out about this, and both of them affect me recently. One of them affected me recently, but I'd say for a type of game or a generation that I can't go back to, Super Nintendo, NES era games, specifically games with, like, you got. Am I still here? I'm sorry.
No,
okay.
Go ahead and repeat that because I didn't get it.
Okay. Lives. Like you got 5 lives, and once you're out, you're dead. It's over. The game restarts. Right. And I cannot go back to that. Like I'm not a very good gamer to begin with, and the fact that I bought this game and you're treating it like I'm like in a quarter machine, and you're taking my money is just ridiculous. And it just makes me angry just thinking about it. Like the old like Contra or even Mario to an extent. Any of those types of games just make me upset. But it's affected me here pretty recently. A type that I know this may be a little off topic, Aaron, but I've been playing Final Fantasy IX a little bit.
Daniel, this is the Monsters Geek podcast. We don't even start on the rails.
That's true. Jared, you played Final Fantasy IX, right?
Yeah.
You guys, for those of you who haven't, there is a mini game at the very beginning of the game where Vivi, who's one of the characters you start out in, goes and does a jump rope mini game. Okay, and what it is you just press an X, and he's just doing a jump rope game, and you get items if you get so far. There's a trophy for the new version of the game on PS4.
It all starts with a trophy.
To jump 1,000 times, successive times. Now, because it speeds up at certain points, and then it changes the rhythm at certain points, but whatever. But here's the issue. Now, it's very difficult to do because of screen lag. TVs, right? So back in the day when you had these, the tube TVs, there was a rhythm, everyone had the same rhythm. There was a certain sound. It was, it was a tap, tap, tap. You just had to follow the beat essentially and get it when it changed. But now, I haven't been able to get this trophy. I've been reading all the and people are like, okay, connect your controller directly to the system. Connect your headphones directly to your controller. All these things to try to limit the lag because it has to be so perfect. And it's kind of ridiculous. But that's just kind of one of the things that I thought of is, that's a gaming mechanic that doesn't work anymore because of because of technology.
I just found, like, I picture the SpongeBob 33 days later.
Exactly.
I can't get
I'm
this
still
thing
doing the
yet.
same thing.
Daniel, I think, and I wish Andrew was here, I think what the biggest issue, I've been wanting to kind of talk to you about this, you have a really bad trophy addiction. And, I heard that you stood on your head and drank pickle juice while trying to touch your while trying to do this trophy.
I think we need to have an intervention.
I think this is actually why we did the podcast. It took us 47 episodes to get to this intervention, but we definitely made it.
When he was talking about the jump rope, I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to be a trophy thing." I was like, "Oh God."
Come on down to Yeti's Trophy Addiction Rehabilitation Center. We have 3 solid meals, and you will not want trophies after you're done.
Right. Here's the thing. It's fun for me, right, to like do it and get better at it. And like, okay, I got a little farther this time. Oh, I got a little farther this time. And I was like, okay, this is fun because I'm getting better. But now I've hit a wall where I can definitely tell.
You know who else says that?
Who?
Heroin addicts.
There's this wall that I've hit that I can definitely tell there's a lag. There's a noticeable lag. So my mind here recently, it just doesn't, that mechanic does not work anymore. But
you would think they'd fix that with a re-release like that.
You think they would, but they didn't.
Well, Daniel, when you bust out your veins, you start with the toe, so start doing it with your toe, buddy.
Okay.
X.
The tube TVs, and then the anything that treats me like I'm playing an arcade game, just makes me mad. Arcade game.
Well, you got to remember, a lot of those home consoles still had with either 1 arcade ports or 2 still had that arcade mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. Jerry, what about you, man?
Well, one thing I've always had a problem is like going back to the old like Atari games, like Galaga and stuff like that. It's fun for about 15 minutes, and then you never pick it up again. I mean, I can play Mario all day long. I mean, just about any of the Nintendo games. I don't, having the limited number of lives doesn't bother me. Or Super Nintendo.
Because Jared is so good that he actually gets lives back at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I like playing them, but when you start to go back so far, like we used to pick up the classic, the PlayStation 2 throwback or retro release or whatever of some of the Atari and stuff like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did we play this? I mean, and we'd play for a little bit and then you'd never pick it up again. That'd probably be my only ones.
Those games are like the opposite argument that games are too long today. It's like, literally, you can beat those games in like an hour, if that. Right. I mean, if you can get through them.
Well, I mean, some of them, if you think like Galaga or whatever, does it even have an end?
It's because it's a high score arcade that goes back to the arcade thing. That's a high score thing.
Like that and Pac-Man and Frogger. I mean, I know people. Yeah, I know people.
What's the point of Frogger?
To get across the road. I mean, I know people love those games, but I'm like, it's just so repetitive. I mean, like, of course, it was very limited back then. The screen never changed. I mean, you shoot all the planes down, you start over, you shoot them all down again. Or you get blown up.
If we had a choice between watching Midnight Texas and playing Galaga on Atari,
I will say that
there's no plot holes in Galaga.
it was more refreshing watching Frogger get squished by trucks than watching Midnight Texas.
No, I agree, Jared. I never got into Atari, and I tried. I had an Atari, and I hooked it up, and at one point when I started first collecting, because I got a real Jared, you was there when I bought that Atari, like $10 in the box. Made a pretty good profit off of that. I just never got it, man. I just never did, and I guess if you grew up with it, or that was your first video game system? Because I see a lot of people on like some of the YouTube shows. They're like, "Oh man, I like to collect Atari games." Like, why? Like, why in the world? Like, Atari was like the stuff that, like the shovelware Wii stuff before the shovelware Wii stuff actually, existed. I'm not saying there's not great games. It definitely deserves the credit deserves for kind of bringing up the video game, and actually crediting for bottoming it out before Nintendo brought it back up. But I can see the classics and like Asteroid. Like Asteroid still, I can still play Asteroid. Like Asteroid is it's a hard game, but it's fun. It makes sense for a system like that. But some of those games, it's just like, why? That's not even a video game. Like, I'm not even sure what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Could you imagine
what,
playing,
Joe?
Could you imagine playing Snake on a 65-inch TV?
No, and I don't want to.
Hey, I'm right there with you on Galaga. You were talking about Galaga. I played the arcade version like a couple of weeks ago. Somebody had a cabinet, and I played for. I was like, "Oh, they've got a Galaga machine. This is awesome!" And I literally played for like 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm over this. I don't want to play this anymore.
Actually, I'll rush to the defense of Galaga. Now, I'm not saying it with the Atari. I don't even know if there was an Atari version of Galaga. I'm not really sure. I never played the Nintendo version. But I got really hooked with the Game Boy Advance. They released the Namco Classic collections. Dude, I got really good at Galaga for a long time. It was like, what are you playing the Game Boy Advance? Galaga. And they just look at me like, what? You play Galaga? Is that what you play? And I just got really addicted to it. And I think a lot of it was that high score mentality, because I didn't grow up in arcades with high scores. When we had arcades, we actually just basically had fighting games. That's all we played. Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom and all that stuff. But I got really – Galaga is actually, of all the old school shooters, probably the best one. Like, you can still pick that up and still play today. The rest of them, not so much.
It probably is the best one, but, I mean, like, I grew up with the Atari, and trying to go back and play, like, Breakout, something like that, when that little pixelated squares just bouncing. I mean,
it's super slow.
Yeah, it is. Like, but it's so easy to miss, too. Like, you move the controller, and it's like, oh, you went too far.
He was like a pixel to the right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Atari's not. Yeah, this is. I made a decision early on that Atari was not for me to ever want to play. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not knocking. I think Atari deserves its place in history, but it's hard to go back to those games. It just is. Joe, what about you, man?
All right, I've got a quick one, and I've got not a long one, but semi long. Quick one is N64, just because the graphics don't hold up. So,
yeah, I think the N64 graphics are minus the wrestling games, because everybody can go back and play the wrestling games.
Yeah, Mercy, baby.
Yep. Some of those games are really ugly. Like, I think there's a more playability than what people think, just not because of the looks. Like, Mario's definitely still playable. As far as that goes, the wrestling games, there's some hidden gems on there, but
the Mario's better on the re-release for the Game Boy Advance, just because it cleaned everything up.
Or the DS.
Or the DS,
yeah.
not Game Boy Advance. Yeah, the DS version.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And then my other one was, I guess, the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, the load times.
Sure.
My God, I've gone back. I bought, of course, I think it was last year. I bought Max Payne and Max Payne 2, Manhunt, and Red Dead
Revolver.
And good God, the load times on those games, man, it's just ridiculous. Especially Max Payne. Like, I love that game, absolutely love it. I'm glad. Never mind. They didn't announce HD remake. That's something else. It deserves an HD remake, but man, the load screen and the load times on those games is ridiculous. Then that goes for Red Dead Redemption 3, or Red Dead Redemption as well. Because I went back and I've been playing it as well.
And a lot of those things, those load times, and they got better as when we talk about the PlayStation 3 and 360 they got in live. For example, when you first fire up Horizon, it has a long load time, but what it's doing is actually loading the whole world. so you don't have load times in the middle. And that was something that I always, like, if you walked into a room sometimes, especially the old school stuff, which I'll talk about, that's going to be my another qualm of mine. But, like, for example, like Resident Evil, you'd walk into a room and it'd be like, oh, it's loading. And then you'd show up in the room type of thing. It carried on through the 360 and PS3 where there would be times where you'd enter like a new area and you'd have to load the area. And then if you came out of the area, you had to load back the old area too. So, yeah, that's a little bit not as bad in the 360 and PS3 era, but, definitely in the PS2 and PS1 era, it was somewhat annoying.
It's amazing to go back and play like Red Dead and like LA Noire and then go play something like The Last of Us to see how far that it really, really went. Because you got The Last of Us where there's basically no load screens compared to the other two where you had, and even LA Noire wasn't as bad on load screens. There was a couple, I don't think there was a lot. But Red Dead, it was, you go into a new area, you had to load up or a cutscene, which led to a load screen. LA Noire, it was kind of the same thing, and then you had The Last of Us that didn't have any whatsoever. I mean, you had cutscenes, but you didn't have any type of load screen.
Yeah, I was going to mention Uncharted, but Naughty Dog in general got really good at basically hiding load screens.
Yep.
Either when they're doing cutscenes or doing something else, they're loading another section of the game or whatever. Right. They got really good at that, and the God of War games were really good at that too. Very, very almost no loading screens. Everything's being loaded, essentially hiding the loading screens while you're doing other things.
But I mean, you can kind of see like
some you don't really notice. Yeah,
you can kind of see the evolution of the load screen as you progress through the gaming years of the PlayStation 3, and I guess the Xbox 360. I really didn't play many games except for Fable on that, but Fable had a lot of load screens. But still, I mean, you could see like small, like huge, large, medium, small, not toward the end. So
I think it's pretty amazing that those are first party Sony games. So they figured it out. I think they probably figured out that hardware pretty quickly, and they started out good and just started to get better. Where everybody else was, maybe not start out so good. But Naughty Dog, first party for Sony guys at God of War, first party Sony. So they had a little bit of a head start, I'm sure. But I agree, Daniel. Now that I think back, I can't think of any crazy loading times like some of these other games had.
Yeah.
I was thinking about and the reason I started thinking about this, I think there's a big gap where you have, and Daniel, going back, the NES, that is something that now, like with stuff like the Retro Freak or emulation, you can kind of change. At least you can play those games and still enjoy them without necessarily having to set in one setting and do it.
Save state though, right? I mean,
right, save state, yeah. And that's the biggest. And I'll admit, some people call it cheating. Whatever. I don't have 5 straight hours to play the same levels. I don't. I mean, I just don't have that time, and so I'll play it when I can. I think that I was thinking about because of what I like to play. So I like the NES. Not the biggest NES fan. I'm a big Super Nintendo fan, a big Genesis fan, TurboGrafx. That 16-bit era, I think I could probably play anything in. And we've talked about how easy it is to go back to that. Because now there are some games that try to advance technology a little bit and it doesn't work, but most of those games are pretty playable, whether it be side scrollers or running guns or the RPGs are definitely replayable. All that stuff's good. But I think there's this big gap. And I think it starts with from the PlayStation era, N64 era, kind of, I guess you can throw the Dreamcast in there, even though it didn't hang around too much. Where you have this kind of discovery portion of what you can do with games. I think that's when people started to kind of think in games, obviously in 3 dimensions, not necessarily just a 2 kind of polygonal or kind of side scroll 2D type of thing, even though those games are great and really more accessible than a lot of the stuff that was during the PlayStation N64 era. And that's when I started looking back, minus, the stuff that was going on. They was trying to figure out the camera. They was trying to figure out how to make, back in the day, we thought polygons looked good. Guess what? Polygons do not look good. There was things trying to figure out how to do just a 3D atmosphere, how to do load times, what I can put on the disc, what I can't put on the disc. And for all the great games we talk about in that era, the Final Fantasy sevens, all the RPGs, but Metal Gear, that kind of even Metal Gear to a certain extent is still, for me personally, is still really hard. Most of it has to do with the camera. The camera on that game is just absolutely horrendous. And so any game that is
we didn't know it at the time,
Sure, we thought it was awesome. Yeah. Right. But you go back and and that's probably my biggest qualm is them. And I'm not saying a lot of stuff they did here obviously translate to where we're at in the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One and the Switch and all this stuff as far as how far games have went. But that era of games, like I maybe own like six N64 games. I don't own a ton of those games because those games camera was pretty terrible. It didn't look good, all that stuff that goes with that. Some of them still can be played. But then, you look at the PlayStation era, I don't like, besides the RPGs, like even I love Mega Man Legends, but Mega Man Legends camera was absolutely horrid. Like it was probably one of the worst cameras I ever played with. And so that era of gaming, it's hard for me to go back unless it's like a 32-bit, like a 32-bit, RPG that is more cartoony style versus like these mech games and these other games that have these terrible cameras and terrible controls and trying to, move and use the top buttons to move the right arm or something. It just didn't really translate to me. And that was one of the reasons, like I was trying to look and see am I actually going to play this? Can I actually play something? I just came off of playing something on the PlayStation 4. Is this going to hold up? Am I going to enjoy this? And a lot of my answers were no during that era. A lot of my answers were like, I don't want to fool with the camera. I don't want the grays and browns in my graphics that they've all used. I don't want to fiddle around with these terrible controls trying to figure out how to move this thing. And, for what it is, a lot of advancements was made, but it's hard for me to go back to that era and actually be like, yeah, I totally think this game is awesome.
I don't want your Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider was one of the worst games I ever played. Like you try to go back and play that game now, and it is like you might as well just go and beat your head up against the wall, because it's just not fun.
But besides locking the butler in the freezer and trying to see
besides locking the butler in the freezer, right?
And trying to see Laura Croft naked in the shower, that's only two things that you can basically do in that game.
But I was just thinking about that. So go ahead, Daniel.
Agree with you on that. The camera, we take the camera for granted now. The fact that we take cameras for granted now, and I can remember some maddening cameras. Didn't work right, and going back to play games and like, oh man, I can't move it the way I want to, or I can't get behind this area that I want to. So yeah, that's definitely it. That tell you another thing you made me think of when you were talking about cameras though is controls.
What controls?
Tank.
Oh god, yeah, tank controls. Oh my god, the air was full of them.
Whoever came up with that was an idiot. I mean, whoever thought that was a good idea, and whoever thought using them.
Yeah, it was those.
It's just an idiot.
That is the sole reason I've never played any old school Resident Evil games. The only reason. Yeah. Like I actually really think those are good games as far as how they're designed, but those tank controls are just, I mean, they're just something else.
They're awful. I didn't mean to hijack your thoughts.
No, you're good. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Yeah, I didn't even think about tank control. Funny thing is, I always put tank controls with the camera. Yeah. Because a lot of times they're kind of one and the same. Like you have to have, because they kind of react to each other kind of the same way. If one of them sucks, the other one sucks. And, if both of them sucks, you're just out of luck. But a lot of times those two leaned on each other pretty heavily to is whether or not, that game is replayable 20 years later. So
just terrible.
But I was thinking about that as I was kind of going through my stuff, and then one of the questions was like, "Is this game going to hold up to me?" And most of them did not. And to be quite honest, those disc-based games now you can get them in so many different formats. It's not worth keeping them anymore. Unfortunately, one of them is Suikoden 2. Daniel, I am selling my copy of Suikoden 2. It's just worth too much money just to hold on to nowadays. So
that's all right.
But yeah, that's just. I've never played it.
No.
I've never played it. No. I have it on my Vita. It's my next RPG is after I finish Final Fantasy VI, it's going to be Chrono Trigger. I need to really play Chrono Trigger. But Suikoden's is up there. So, but just something that I was thinking about, and some of the games I was kind of coming across, I was like, I will never play that again. And not because at the time I'm sure it was a great game, but it's just hard to go back to nowadays. So I just find that there's such a gap. Like you can sit down and play a Super Nintendo game and be totally fine. And I'm not saying all of them, but majority of them, you can go back and be like, especially now because people know that graphical style and the gameplay is pretty simple. There's not, cameras and stuff. It's basically either jumping or command. And then there's this huge gap where I just don't care. And then it kind of picks back up in the PlayStation 2 era. Like that's when they kind of finally started getting some things right and making better games in that era. But minus the RPGs in the PlayStation 1 era, I could live without it, as far as ever playing it again. So, all right, guys, you guys got anything else or on that subject or?
Road Rash. Man. Did I kill it?
No, you're good. No, Road Rash for the PS1 was actually pretty good, but it was very simple too, so it kind of worked out. So, yeah, so that's it. So yeah, guys, got anything as far as closing remarks?
Yeah, it's about time we got a high definition version of L.A. Noire.
Oh yeah, Joe's pretty stoked about that.
I am pretty stoked about that. My birthday's in November. If the Monsters of Geek wants to give me anything.
Well, nobody said anything about the trailer for Red Dead 2 dropped this week.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you guys saw it.
I did see it. I'm really upset that at least at this point we're not playing as John Marston any. I kind of don't like the character they showed, and I think that's unfortunately I'll play it, but I kind of don't like the character, and that's one of the reasons like in GTA, like I just didn't like the characters. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't want to play as any of the characters, and I'm afraid that I'll hate that character so much. I'm just like I kind of want to play John Marston.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel has dated this show twice this time. I just want to point that out.
That's right. I guess I did. I'm sorry.
You're okay. You're okay. You're off the show. It's okay. Jared, did you see the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer?
I didn't watch it because I never played the first one. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
God, man.
Around to it.
Oh yeah, that's sad. But yeah, but we're done for tonight, guys. We'll be back with episode 58 at some point. 58, hopefully 58, 48 at some point.
Yeah, you're making me mad because I feel like
I told you I'm future Aaron. It takes me some time to adjust. McFly,
Jared was doing Red Dead Procreation.
When did Red Dead Redemption come out?
2010.
Yeah, it's been 7 years. Wow, that's been a long time ago.
Oh, that doesn't seem like that long ago to me, but yeah, that's about the time Lucy was born, so I wasn't doing much.
I was right. Red Dead Procreation.
All right, and on that, we will end this show before Joe really takes it off the rails. Don't forget to check us out. Don't forget to subscribe, leave comments, review us on iTunes if you don't mind. And also just subscribe to us on YouTube. So maybe you could watch the shows if you don't have an iPhone or don't do podcasts, you could definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel and listen to us once we post it. So check us out, monstersgeek.com. We haven't posted anything in absolutely forever, but I'm sure there's some really cool old articles that you can go back and check it out. I don't know. We just don't have any time to write anything. So podcast this is what we have time for, is the podcast. So
Halloween movie list.
Well, you do it. I'll publish it.
Well, I'm saying
he's got an old one up there.
Oh yeah, he actually got two old ones up there.
Three, I think.
Three. Okay,
No,
there's
two.
three. So.
I don't think I've done that.
Okay, I had to fix my mic. Yeah, so go check us out and on any of those places, and I guess we are out.